Warning, this video contains discussions of trauma. Percy Jackson's world building is something that has always kind of got me asking questions because there are a lot of things left unanswered. And the one I want to talk about today is fatal flaws and just in general how they are chosen and how they are decided for that demigod in particular. There are many that we know about throughout the series, but I think I know where and why the fatal flaws for these demigods are decided. And that is through a defining trauma. Let me explain. Now, like I mentioned, throughout the series we learn various different characters' fatal flaws. In the case of Percy, it's loyalty, Annabeth, hubris, and so on and so forth. But we never get an understanding of why their fatal flaws are the way they are and how they kind of just in general come to be. So I want to explore why I think it is trauma related, looking through three specific characters: Annabeth Chase, Luke Castellan, and Nico D'Angelo, and even reflecting a little bit on one for myself. So I'm going to start first with Annabeth Chase. Now, Annabeth's fatal flaw is hubris, which is in a sense excessive pride and self-confidence. Now, while I kind of agree that Annabeth definitely does have that, I think in a sense more of her hubris is the sense of perfectionism and wanting to fix things to their better image, or at least to the image that she believes is better. And the reason why I think she has this specific fatal flaw is based on the fact that, as I discussed in my Annabeth's trauma video, which I'll card here, it is because she comes from a broken home, a family that she didn't think was a family because they rejected her and in a sense cast her out of their idyllic family image. So as we see in Sea of Monsters for the siren's image of what she is seeing, she sees her family whole, not with the stepmother and step siblings that she has at current, but with her father and Athena together and happy to see Annabeth. And even the image of Luke, her found family, the person who was a family member and family figure to her until they themselves broke that family's image by turning to the other side. She in a sense is wanting to fix things and make this a perfect family for her, because her flaw is the sense that she wants to make things better. She wants to fix things so they are better, so she doesn't have to continue to be in a broken family. That was very much her defining element, was her running away at 7 years old from her family home for feeling like she is a threat to her family and that she isn't a part of that family. So it kind of almost makes sense that her response to this is having this sense of overconfidence and pride to make things better, because she believes that she can make her family better. And we even see this in her response with how she continues to give this, as I mentioned in that video, abusive family multiple chances to be better because of her fatal flaw tied to that trauma of coming from a broken home and wanting to make things better because she believes she can, and she can't stop it. And that's where we go into the next character, Luke Castellan, whose fatal flaw is excessive wrath. And I believe the reason why he has this excessive wrath is based on the trauma of not only what his mother was going through of the curse of Delphi, her literally basically being continued to be possessed and go through horrific forms that Luke as a child was having to experience for years on end and deal with alone, except for the few times that Hermes comes by. Add in that then he feels betrayed by Hermes, who knows something about his fate and never tells him, and doesn't even recognize the trauma that Luke has been going through, having to live with a woman who continues to, in a sense, cut in a sense, neglect him and be emotionally distant because of all that she's going through this curse of Delphi. I used the wrong word initially, so that's why this cut-in has happened. Let's continue. She doesn't even remember half of what's happening, and Hermes allows it to continue. So there is a of resentment, fear and loss that comes from that builds into this wrath, this hatred of the gods and anyone who is in a sense an authority figure to him. This trauma of what he experienced as a child defined how he thought of the gods, which led him down this darker path, and to a sense of no longer being able to forgive the gods because of it being overwhelming to him. Luke experienced huge traumas throughout his childhood, and continuing on when his father sends him on a quest that's already been done before, and he ends up literally scarred for life. That continues that cycle of trauma that feeds into that fatal flaw that has been there from that first traumatic experience. And so his wrath and his hatred grows and grows until it literally is his undoing. And then we go into Nico, someone whose fatal flaw is resentment and holding grudges. And I believe the reason why he has this fatal flaw is due to the fact that he continues to lose everyone he loves. Loss is basically his defining characteristic. He's lost everyone he's ever cared about except maybe one, and that's Hazel. And because of these losses and being a child of Hades, his resentment of those who he deems responsible for the losses in the case of Percy, but also it seems a resentment for life, a hatred of the living in the fact that he continues to just surround himself with the dead until obviously Will Solace comes into his life. The dead are the only people that he wants to have a connection with. And I believe that is due to his resentment being tied to loss, and loss of life in particular is what leads to an internal resentment of anything that is living, forcing himself into isolation so he can no longer experience the trauma of loss. And it's why he is often alone throughout the series. That fatal flaw of his, based on that trauma response, led to him being alone. I just think it's just a really fascinating thing, just for these three in general, that their traumas are in a sense reflective of their fatal flaws. Annabeth is in a sense a perfectionist, but the one thing that she can't perfect or fix is that broken family that she came from. Luke's is wrath, and it's based on this hatred and even resentment in as well of the gods for abandoning him to be living within a traumatic home life for years on end, even though he knows that they could have done something about it. And then Nico's of resentment of, in a sense, the living, being tied to the fact that he continues to lose those that he loves throughout the series, and learns more and more that he's lost other people throughout his life without even knowing, in the case of his mother. And so, yeah, I think it kind of makes sense that the fatal flaws are tied to a traumatic moment in a demigod's life that then defines them from then on. Because as we know, trauma is something that is very defining as a person. I know that most of the things that I've experienced that were traumatic in my life have left a lasting imprint on me, to the point that most of my life is defined by how I then go forward. In my case, it is being someone who can't stand the idea of losing control. So I must control every single thing in my life as best I can. And something that goes out of my control, I'm gone. I'm out of it. I can't cope any longer. And I think that's similar with how demigods are with their fatal flaws. So I think, in a sense, my fatal flaw would probably be a sense of needing ultimate control, due to the fact that I've had many times of things being out of my control and control being stolen from me. So yeah, fatal flaws are defined by a trauma in a demigod's life. I don't know, I just think it kind of makes sense. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below if you think this makes sense as to how fatal flaws are defined, or if I managed to actually miss something in the books and it says how fatal flaws come to be and I just did not realise. I feel like there's a possibility, but at the same time, I don't know. I've read these books meticulously, so I'm sure I would have seen it if it was written down. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I truly do appreciate it. Check out the links for my social media and my Patreon in the description box if you want to support me. Can't support me financially, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, drop a thumbs up, thumbs down, comment, share with your friends. And again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.